Let's start with this. Are you surprised by the Nets telling Kyrie we won't even play you on the road? You surprised about that one?
No, they pretty much moved in that direction last week. So to give you a brief timeline, the rule was passed, the law was passed by the mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio. They knew there was a problem. And by the way, from what I understand, there was a handful of players on the Knicks and Nets who were unvaccinated when this law came down in August. And everybody knew this was a problem. They worked on it for weeks. Every other player for the Knicks or Nets got vaccinated by the opening of training camp except for Kyrie. Kyrie said, and everybody said, it's not going to be a problem. Don't worry about it. Actually, Kyrie said, privacy. They go out to San Diego, so Kyrie's able to do training camp. They have a meeting at Joe Tsai, their billionaire owner's home in La Jolla. Joe Tsai is very publicly pro-vaccine. He had Kyrie at his house. I'm sure the message was sent. Kyrie came back to New York and did not get vaccinated. And so then they first said, Kyrie, we're not going to move our practices. You can't practice with us. Kyrie still did not get vaccinated. Then they said, Kyrie, we don't think that we're going to necessarily be able to play you in away games, even though that's allowed unless you get vaccinated. Kyrie still didn't get vaccinated. And after 3 bites at the apple, Kyrie Irving struck out, and they said, we're moving on without you. Now, he obviously could end this today, tomorrow, whenever. He only needs to get one shot to satisfy the rule. But it is an untenable situation to play in the NBA where you can't have a guy play with you on a regular basis, especially when you have long homestands. The second week of the season, the Nets start a 6-game homestand. How are you not going to play with somebody for 6 games and then bring him back for the 7th? And so they just pulled the plug on it.
So do we know, and I'm going to ask you a question about you knowing what's in Kyrie's mind, do we know if it is something that he has legitimately researched and feels that the vaccine is dangerous for him, or there is some sort of belief system that it's against that belief system, or is it now just, I'm not going to let anybody tell me what to do, I've got enough money, or I've got enough pride, I'm a prideful man, nobody's telling me what to do in this world? What is it? Do we know?
I'm sure that some of it, I won't speak for Kyrie, but I will say this. There's a point in Kyrie's career where he broke his kneecap, and he had surgery where they put some hardware into his knee, some screws, I believe. And those screws later became infected, and he had to have surgery to take them out, and he got this infection. I don't remember the exact type of infection. I don't want to misspeak, but he ended up having to get treated for this very serious infection for a long time. And so after somebody would go through something like that, I would understand that you would raise your level of concern and awareness of what goes into your body. So I definitely agree that Kyrie probably has a different worldview than the average person on the street. Having said that, he understands that if he doesn't get vaccinated, he can't play. It was made crystal clear to him. Hundreds of other NBA players were presented with the same situation. All the other players in New York were presented with the same situation. They said, I have to do this to play for my team. If you look at this Nets roster, Rich, it's a whole bunch of veteran guys who came there to win a championship. Obviously, Durant and Harden, but a bunch of guys who gave up money elsewhere to come play there. Guys in their 30s, this is their last chance. Paul Millsap, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, James Johnson. I could go on. And they're there, and they're like, we're going to try to do this mission. And so they all got vaccinated. Some of them probably didn't want to, but they got vaccinated. And so Kyrie, on this front, has little credibility in that locker room. And while Sean Marks gave a press conference today, and he stopped short of saying that Kevin Durant approved this or signed off on it, he basically said, you can ask Kevin his thoughts on it myself. I have little doubt that they didn't have Kevin Durant's thumbs up ratifying this, even if they're not going to frame it that way, because Durant knows he had to make this decision as well.
So where do things stand? I mean, we wait for a Kyrie statement, or is there a point where he will be made available, or the Nets just cut ties with him and thus can't make him available? Like, literally, what is the next step on this sort of thing? Play basketball and then revisit it, or he's going to CVS right now? I mean, like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what happens here?
He has two choices, really. He can't. Well, I guess he's got three choices, but I mean, two viable choices. The first choice is to wait for the situation in the pandemic to improve, and perhaps this law in New York is, nullified, released. Who knows? There is a mayoral election coming up, I believe, in November. There will be a new mayor. The Delta variant numbers are going down, knock on wood, but who knows if anything's going to change. But, I mean, in theory, he can wait it out. Or two, he could, I don't want to say eat crow because that sounds like he's some sort of, bad thing, but he'd have to get the shot. I guess he could also, three, just retire, but I don't think that's viable. But I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
When he says no to this, he's not just saying no to playing on this championship team. He's not just saying no to half of his salary because he will not get paid half of his salary. He'll still get paid for the away games, even though they're choosing to make him inactive. But the Nets were prepared to give him a $160 million contract extension this offseason. This is not, I'm telling you, based on sources. The general manager, Sean Marks, when they signed Durant to a contract extension, said in August, we hope to have Kyrie signed by the start of camp. Obviously, he's not getting that contract extension right now. I don't know if he'll ever get it. And even if he was traded to another team, based on his decision-making and his focus, he's making a decision that he probably is never going to get that, at least for the time being. So he's put a lot on the line, especially financially, and also competing for this championship to defend the way he feels.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.